This is North Korea's eastern coast, a multi-billion-dollar tourism district consisting of resorts with lavish towers, private villas, and even its own airstrip. But upon reviewing satellite images, something is clearly off. Year after year, the place stays empty, with no crowds, no movement, and no signs of tourism activity. On the rare occasion that tourists do come, one never makes it home from a morning walk. Another checks in and never checks out. Because these resorts were never built for tourists, they were built for something they didn't want us to know. The hotel floors wired to watch every visitor, their rooms secretly checked, and behavior monitored. And when a state decides it needs leverage, ordinary travelers become tools of diplomacy. A system so calculated that even the United States had to send its former President Clinton directly into Pyongyang just to bring home a single citizen. This is the story of how North Korea's luxurious coast, built to fool the world, is a reminder that nothing here is ever what it seems. In 2014, Wonsan-Kalma Coastal Resort was announced, spanning across 4 kilometers of coastline, dozens of hotels, water parks, theaters, and sports arenas. A complex built to host 20,000 visitors at once, meant to rival the most luxurious around the world. More than $100 million was put into this project, and by 2018, Kim Jong Un was walking on the site himself, promising the country it would open within just a year. 150 kilometers north, Masikryong, a ski resort already in operation, built in just 10 months by military brigades, what the regime called Masikryong Speed. This resort had 9 slopes carved into the Hamyong Mountains, a 530-meter main run, and Swiss-style lodges filmed endlessly on state television. A winter paradise the world was meant to envy. After 11 years of construction, the resort finally opened in July of 2025. Kim arrived with his family. Fireworks, parades, and of course, a national celebration. But by September, the parking lots were empty again. With billions of dollars of estimated spending and years of construction, you'd expect crowds, but what they got instead was silence and almost no visitors. What remains is the question of what the regime does with multi-billion-dollar resorts that sit completely empty along the shores of North Korea.
Otto Warmbier was 21 years old when he arrived in Pyongyang on a New Year's tour package. As a University of Virginia student majoring in economics, he traveled to Hong Kong with the goal of seeing North Korea before heading home. The tour company promised it was safe, quoting that thousands of Westerners had visited without incident. On January 2nd, 2016, Otto checked into the Yanggakdo Hotel, one of only 3 hotels in Pyongyang approved for foreign tourists. 4 days later, as his tour group prepared to leave, Otto was pulled aside at the airport. He was never allowed to board the plane. 6 weeks later, North Korean state TV broadcasted a confession, claiming he'd stolen a propaganda poster from the hotel's restricted staff-only floor. He said the CIA had recruited him, that a church group offered him money. The confession was clearly coerced, but North Korea sentenced him anyway. 15 years of labor camp imprisonment. Luckily, 15 months later, North Korea made an unexpected announcement. Otto was being released on humanitarian grounds. When the plane landed in Cincinnati, Otto was in an unresponsive state. Severe brain damage. North Korea claimed botulism and a sleeping pill. American doctors found no evidence of botulism. What they found was catastrophic neurological injury, consistent with oxygen deprivation or physical trauma. 6 days after returning home, Otto Warmbier passed away. His death wasn't an isolated incident, and Warmbier wasn't the first foreigner pulled into this system. In 1996, American citizen Evan Hunziker was detained for 3 months, released after negotiations, and found deceased in a hotel room a month later. In 2009, Laura Ling and Yuna Lee were sentenced to 12 years of imprisonment until diplomatic intervention pulled them out 5 months later. In 2018, Australian student Alex Sigley vanished from Pyongyang without a word of explanation. These aren't accidents. North Korea uses tourists as leverage, arresting them on fabricated charges, extracting confessions, negotiating releases. This is detainee diplomacy. Hold them until political price is right, whether it's sanction relief, diplomatic recognition, or simply global headlines. Between 2009 and 2018, at least 16 Americans were detained in North Korea, some for months, others for years. The Yanggakdo Hotel, where Otto stayed, isn't just a hotel. Every floor is monitored, hidden cameras in hallways, microphones in rooms. The infamous 5th floor, officially staff only, but defectors reveal it's filled with surveillance. Tourists are told certain floors don't exist. Elevators skip them. North Korea doesn't just arrest tourists on fabricated charges. It gathers intelligence on them first. Weeks of surveillance footage, recorded conversations. This isn't paranoia. It's all a part of the system. In 2017, Otto's death changed the game. The US State Department banned American citizens from traveling to North Korea. Diplomatic relations froze. Tour companies stopped operating. But the system didn't stop. So why does North Korea keep building them? The resorts aren't failing. They were never meant to succeed as tourist destinations. The luxury resorts aren't just leverage. They're actually sanctioned loopholes. These resorts don't need tourists. Wonsan-Kalma alone costed about $2 billion to build. That money didn't come from the North Korean economy. It flowed through Chinese intermediaries and Russian shell companies like Masikryong LLC, using casino and IT schemes to evade financial tracking. They need the appearance of legitimacy, and when tourists do arrive, they're not random backpackers. Since June 2025, Wonsan-Kalma has been open exclusively to Russian nationals, part of a deepening alliance between Moscow and Pyongyang. These resorts serve as elite access facilities, diplomatic meetings, and weapons deals discussed over luxurious amenities. Those ski slopes at Masikryong, built on military training grounds. The resorts aren't just about money. Kim Jong Un calls these projects symbols of North Koreans' prosperity and progress. But there's one more piece to how North Korea funds the entire system. And on the beaches of Wonsan, a South Korean tourist wandered into a restricted military zone, and North Korean soldiers fired twice. Her name was Park Wang-ja, 53 years old. What you didn't hear was what a single incident triggered: the complete financial collapse of one of South Korea's largest conglomerates, Hyundai Group, controlling construction, shipping, electronics, and heavy industries. In 1998, they were South Korea's second largest business group with over 90 billion in assets, and they bet everything on North Korea. 1.5 billion invested into Mount Kumgang, the Diamond Mountain Resort project. It was supposed to be the symbol of inter-Korean cooperation, luxury hotels, hiking trails, cultural exchanges between two nations still technically at war. For 10 years, it actually worked. Over 2 million South Korean tourists visited. Revenue flowed into North Korea. Hyundai built hotels, infrastructure, transportation networks. Then, Park Wang-ja. South Korea demanded an investigation, an apology, basic accountability. But North Korea refused. Blamed the victim, claimed she ignored warnings. South Korea suspended all tours immediately. The resort went silent overnight. Hyundai tried to negotiate for 3 years, proposed compromises, offered solutions. North Korea's response in 2011? Military decree. All South Korean assets seized. No compensation, no negotiation. But the real loss? The political capital spent, convincing both governments this could work. Hyundai never recovered. The Mount Kumgang project bankrupted their tourism division and contributed to the group's fragmentation. And Mount Kumgang? Today, it sits abandoned. This is how North Korea actually funds the system. Not through tourists, not through ski lift tickets or hotel rooms, but through foreign investment traps. Invite the money in, promise partnership and prosperity, let foreign capital build the infrastructure, wait for political excuse, and then seize everything. The pattern is clear. The resorts aren't business ventures. They're design traps where North Korea controls every variable on the land they own. Foreign money builds them, North Korean military takes them, and the regime survives another year.